When you think of accounting and finance, what comes to mind? Don't worry, this is not my course. I have something just a little more special planned for you. Do you want to learn about accounting and finance in a way that you've never been taught before? Of course you do. My visual approach will teach you everything you need to know, and it will be a lot of fun. In fact, you'll wonder why you weren't taught this way in school. Oh, and if you get a moment, please check out the student reviews to see how so many people have enjoyed the learning experience. And you know what the best part is? No experience is necessary to take this course. So if you don't know how to model and value a company, analyze a cash flow statement, or understand the difference between growth and value investing, not to worry. We will cover all of those concepts from scratch. So why should you learn accounting and finance from me? I have an MBA in finance from Columbia University. But more importantly, I have work experience in the real world, from Goldman Sachs to several hedge funds, to venture capital and consulting firms. I've raised and managed over $1 billion in my career. Now I'm passionate about sharing my knowledge and experience. My life has turned full circle, from my own education to my experience in business, to investing in and founding several companies. Instead of teaching boring finance and accounting theory, I teach based on my own real-life practical experience, and it has led me right here to you. I want you to understand how to create, analyze, and forecast an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow statement. I want you to thoroughly understand and enjoy finance and accounting so that you can be inspired to achieve all of your career goals. I have the tools needed to get the job done. So let's do it. I'll see you in class. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our 250th weekly webcast. Now, if this is the first time you're joining us, welcome. If you've been with us before, welcome back. The way this call works is this is an AMA, like you see on Reddit, Ask Me Anything. You can ask me business questions, investing questions, career questions, and my humble goal is to help you take your career or your company to the next level. Now, before we begin, I've got an important announcement. Next Thursday, November 2nd, at 8 a.m., I'm going to be interviewing Brent Thill. And Brent Thill is one of the best equity analysts on the planet. He's worked on some of the largest technology IPOs in history. He's unbelievable, and it's a real treat to have him on this call. Now, what I'll do next week is I'll interview him, and then you can ask questions about how to invest, how to get a career at an investment bank, etc. Let me get to your questions. All right, first up, would you be able to share what is the difference between the yields of short, medium, and long-term bonds? Why would you choose one over the other? Absolutely. So when you talk about short, medium, and long-term bonds, you're referring to U.S. government debt usually. And basically, the way it works is you can either invest short-term, medium-term, or long-term, depending on when you need the money. So if you're older and you need money soon, you buy short-term debt, meaning treasuries that usually mature in less than a year. If you're a big company and you don't want to just sit on cash on your balance sheet because the return on cash is not that high, then you have cash and marketable securities, which means marketable securities in your balance sheet can include treasuries or what's called commercial paper. And commercial paper is like a treasury, but it has an expiration date of 270 days or less. Now, if you want, I can talk about the yield curve in a lot of detail. I've done that on previous calls. But the yield curve basically tells us what expectations are for debt longer term. And right now, the yield curve indicates that rates in the future are going to be lower than today. And usually, but not in all cases, usually that means that we're going to be going into a recession, where there's a greater than 50% probability of a recession. And you want to look at 30-year, meaning long-term debt yields, because you want to understand what you can get a mortgage for. And so right now, mortgage rates touched 8% for the 30-year. Again, I can go into more detail if you want me to, but I've talked about that in detail in previous calls. Thanks. Okay. Next question is, propose an opening of an interview. So you break the ice with your interviewer if you don't know his name, as you wrote here, in advance. Yeah. So this has happened to me a lot. A couple things you can do. So I had a webcast yesterday with somebody I'd never met before, and I didn't know how to pronounce his name. So what I did was I just did a quick Google search on a couple of different sources, and then I saw exactly how to pronounce the name. Now, when I used to work for big companies, before my interviews, what I would do is this. I would call the front desk after hours, late at night, basically whatever the phone number is, and then 4 zeros at the end. And then I would go into the automatic voicemail system, and I would dial by name to listen how to pronounce that person's name. In terms of your question on breaking the ice, what I usually do before meetings is I go to the Twitter or X profile of the person I'm meeting with, and I see who they follow. You know, if they follow athletes, then, and I love baseball, if they follow baseball players, I can talk about that. For example, the World Series starts tomorrow, and it's astonishing because you have two teams, the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks, that both had over 100 losses in 2021. That's never happened before. But anyway, find something you have in common with them in order to chat about things you have in common with them. You can always go to LinkedIn too to see who they follow, groups they follow, etc., to break the ice. Or what I do every morning when I'm getting ready is I do this. Alexa, what's the Wall Street Journal news?
From the Wall Street Journal.
Alexa, please stop. So I know all the important news issues to talk about in that interview or meeting with a potential customer. Okay. All right. Next question is from Ray. Hey, Ray, how are you? Ray wrote, Chris, please tell us what time you let your kids use screens. What do you consider healthy for them? Yeah. So when my kids use screens at night, I recommend they use what are called blue blocker glasses. Okay. And usually my youngest one, Dylan, I don't let him use his iPhone or do anything after 9 or 10 p.m. But blue blocker glasses are really healthy for you, and I use them every night. And basically what they do, I'm going to show you how to get them in a second. What they do is they block out blue light, hence the name, from your screens so that you can get more sleep. And they're really cheap as well. So all you have to do is just do a search on blue blocker glasses, Amazon. And they're like 10 or 15 bucks for a pair of two of them. Yeah. And I bought these here a couple of times. And so at night after 7 p.m. when I'm watching television or playing a video game or using any screen, I make sure to wear these. In terms of bedtime for kids in general, I have friends who have very, very successful kids who are in their 20s now. And I ask them, give me one tip on why they're successful. And one of my good friends told me that he let his daughter stay up as late as she wanted to every night if she's reading. Yeah. Readers are leaders. Okay. Next question I've got here is, when is it a good time to buy gold? Please tell us more about the RSI. Yeah, sure. So let me talk about gold first. So the best time to buy gold is when there's unbelievable economic uncertainty. Okay, so gold is kind of and this is a fake prop, kind of like I'm a fake teacher. But gold is basically a fear investment. So back in 2008, when we were within 24 hours of bank machines not working, my biggest long position was gold. Now, I think that everybody should own gold in their portfolio. I never recommend having more than 5% of any investment in any one stock, commodity, etc. But the big secular change is this. So the Chinese government has kind of signaled that they're going to be investing a little bit less, potentially, in U.S. treasuries. And so what do you think they'll invest in? Probably this longer term. And so I believe that gold is a great long-term investment as 5% maximum portion of your portfolio. Yeah. Okay. But in general, I love to buy any security when everybody else hates that security. Because if you buy the same investment that everybody else buys and everyone else is excited about, then there aren't that many incremental investors to push it higher. And you got to think like Wayne Gretzky. And Wayne Gretzky, who's one of my heroes, of course I have a hockey stick prop here. Wayne Gretzky was successful, and he said this humbly, not because he skates where the puck is, but rather because he skates where the puck is going to be. And we have to use the same logic when we invest. We don't want to buy investments that people like now. We want to buy investments that people are going to like. And that's why whenever I invest in companies, I love to think about what is an upcoming catalyst. For example, Grand Theft Auto 6. That is going to be the mother of all catalysts for Take-Two, ticker TTWO. And when GTA 6 comes out, I'm so sorry, you're not going to see me for a month. Yeah. In terms of your next question on the relative strength index, yeah. So the relative strength index will tell you when too many investors have either bought or sold a stock or any investment in a short amount of time. Let me show you how this works. And before I do, and I say this with love in my heart, whenever you invest, please think long term. Look at fundamentals first, valuation second, and then technical analysis like the RSI a distant third. So I'm going to show you here. So, and it doesn't always work. Some people call it voodoo, to be intellectually honest. So let's go to finance.yahoo.com and let's type up Tesla. Okay. So the way the RSI works is, and let me just pull up a chart right here. Give me a second. The way it works is there are two readings. One is 20, one is 80. And the way to add this here, you go to indicators and you add here the RSI. Okay. And I'm going to take myself off the corner here. There's a face-off in the corner. It's my Canadian hockey reference of the day. Okay. So down here, it's kind of tricky to see. But there's a red line, okay, and that's about 20 here. And there's a green line, which is 80. So when the RSI reaches 20, you buy. After you do your research, of course. Doesn't always work. So right here, you can see that Tesla was massively oversold right here. And the RSI was 20. And so this, according to technical investors, is a good time to buy. By the same token, right here, we see the RSI is 80, actually above 80 here. So it might pull back a bit here. Do I use this when I invest? I do sometimes. So whenever I invest in companies, I always look for what I call a 5x5, meaning a mid or small cap company that I think has 500% upside within 5 years. Am I wrong? Oh my God, all the time. But if I do my due diligence and I'm right, and I'm only up 100% or 200%, I'm pretty happy. What does this have to do with the RSI though? What I usually do in companies that I love, if I don't have a full position, is I buy more when the RSI is 20. And when the RSI is 80, I might take a little bit of profit as well. Okay. And there's a lot of other things I can talk to you about when it comes to technical analysis. Just ask. I'm here to humbly help any way I can. Thank you. Okay, next up, Animals wrote, Chris, you are the real rival of ChatGPT. Oh, thank you. ChatGPT and I have one thing in common, is quite often we're confidently wrong. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Next up, Rahul. Hey, Rahul, how are you? Good to see you. You wrote, what is the most important skill or qualities for a digital marketing agency? Yeah, so digital marketing agencies help you get more hits on your website and sell more product. I've worked with a lot of them. The best ones really analyze data closely. And I have this philosophy that I wrote down, and I have it on my back wall up there. You can't see it, but it says, plan, execute, analyze, adjust, repeat. Plan, execute, analyze, adjust, repeat. You need to look at data. Without analyzing data, you have just an opinion and nothing more. And great digital marketing companies, they'll look at web traffic, who is looking at your website or buying your product in which regions of the world. And then what they also do is they create campaigns in Facebook, YouTube, etc. to sell your product. Yeah. And Facebook is still the best way to sell. Yeah. The ads are relatively cheap. And the digital marketing firm I work with, there's a CMO that I outsource to. Her name is Cassandra Cox. She's amazing. And she's figured out an algorithm so that for every $1 we spend on ads, we make $8. And she's even figured it out on certain platforms. For every $1 we spend, we make $40. But you can't scale a business massively like that, because what you have to do is you have to use cookies if people opt in, of course. And the total addressable market for what I do, it's great, but we can't scale that 1-to-40 ratio in every market. Yeah. And I can go into more details on that. In terms of the email service that we use something called Active Campaign. So if you receive emails from me, it's from Active Campaign. When you first start a company, the best place to start for collecting emails, which is still the gold standard, is MailChimp. And then once you get bigger, like I am humbly, then you move up to Active Campaign. Now, what you have to do is you have to gather as many email addresses as you can. And I overdo this sometimes, and I'm sorry, but I have to run a business. But the way that I get email addresses, there's a number of ways. But if you go to my website here, and you scroll down, and you don't have to enter your email, I'm just showing you how I do it. I give something away. It's a networking book, which I mentioned in a lot of my vlogs. And I built a really big business around just this book, and I have others I give away as free. And this here is called a call to action, a CTA. You get an email address, but you provide value. Give and receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. Yeah. And that's the essence of digital marketing, social media in general, is helping people. Yeah. All right. Next question is, can you share some strategies for effective time management and productivity? Yeah. You have to schedule every single day the night before, and I can give you all a free tool. I'm not going to ask for your email address on exactly how to do this. Okay. So if you go to harounmba.com/ all lowercase here, schedule. Whoops, I just made it all uppercase. I just had a senior moment, folks. The older I get, the better it was. Schedule. Okay, good. Then what you can do is you can download a daily scheduling PowerPoint file. I'm not asking for your email address. And then what this does is it's in PowerPoint format, which means it'll also work. This is me buying time. It'll also work in LibreOffice as well as Google Slides, etc. And I wrote here, you can change this up as you want to. And what I do is I print something like this out every night, or almost every night. Do this on weekdays, and I promise you, your productivity will go through the roof. So the way it works is you enter in the day number and the date, and see how many days in a row you can do this. I'll come back to this stuff here in a second. Then you write out your schedule. Okay, do this the night before, like at 9 p.m., write the schedule out, put it by your sink where you wash your face in the morning. You schedule everything. You schedule every meeting, you schedule, and I think I'm blocking this in the corner, you schedule time for exercise, go for a walk at 1 p.m., and that's what Steve Jobs and Larry Ellison used to do together, and that's how you come up with great ideas. Make sure that you get time for the gym as well. You do have time if you schedule. And then up here, I have goals, to-dos, etc. And this is kind of old, right? So this was an example many years ago where I created these courses here. So these are deadlines here. Then up here, at the end of the day, before you schedule the next days, you're going to score yourself. And I'm going to take my face off in the corner here so you can see what's underneath me. Give me a second. Sorry for making you guys dizzy. Okay, here we go. Good. So what you do is at the end of the day, you score yourself and you put a score out of 100. And this is very subjective. But for me, if I didn't go to the gym, I'd take 10 points off. If I didn't spend time with the kids, I'd take another 10 points off. If I didn't get 7.5 hours of sleep, I'd take 10 points off and score it out of 100. And up here, and this is just personal for me, of course you can change this. Did I put God first? Yes. If not, I'd take more than 20 points off. Did I make sure that I didn't check the internet or email too much? Did I get 20,000 steps and all that stuff? Did I wash my face twice, etc.? So do this every single day. And then score yourself at the end of each day and see how many days in a row you can do this for. And the interesting thing about New Year's resolutions is most people give up on their New Year's resolutions by the third week of January. And the reason is because they don't set a deadline date. So when you make these daily schedules, you're basically setting a one-day deadline date. And write down your goals and your most important goals, your North Star goal, at the top of that one-pager. And put in brackets what is the deadline date for that? So for me, for example, when I wrote my first book, I didn't set a deadline date. And you want to vocalize your goal too. And I'll provide you with a template for how you can create a book as well. I didn't set a deadline date. And so I would go to Thanksgiving in Canada with my parents, my wonderful sisters and brother, and they would all ask me, so when are you going to finish your book? By vocalizing your goal, it puts pressure on you in a good way to get it done. Then I went to a Tony Robbins event, which I all recommend that you do if you can. It's called Unleash the Power Within. I went in, I think it was early November of 2015 in Los Angeles. And Tony Robbins, at the end of the 4-day event, told all of us, write down a goal and a deadline date for something you've been putting off. And so I wrote down that I would get this book finished within 2 weeks. I got it done in 3 days. I was so fired up by it. Yeah. Now, I think that everybody should write a book. And if you write a book and give it to potential customers or people you're interviewing with, it makes you look amazing. And I'm going to teach you how in a second really quick. And if you think what I'm about to tell you is too much work, I want you to ask yourself this. And I say this with love in my heart as always. How badly do you want that customer, or how badly do you want that job? So here's how you do it. And I've had tons of students that have done this, and I bought tons of books from my students as well that have done this. So all you do is you go to my website, harounmba.com, all lowercase, write book. I don't ask for your email address for this. And you click here to download a really simple template that uses Microsoft Word or Google Sheets if you want. And there's one page of instructions on how to do this for free. Okay. And on this one page of instructions here, it tells you how to publish this on Amazon Kindle, Amazon Print, as well as ACX, which is audible.com. And then if you want, you can go to Fiverr and get somebody to create the cover of the book, which might cost you like $5 or $10 or something. And all you do is you fill all this in here. Okay. Everything is done for you in 6-inch by 9-inch format. And then you right click on this in Word to update the table, or in Google Docs. I promise you it helps you tremendously. Now, the best way to use social media for free to take your career to the next level and write a book at the same time is to take a page from Gary Vaynerchuk's book. Gary Vaynerchuk, for those who aren't familiar with him, is the best social media expert in the world. And he always talks about repurposing content. What does that mean? How can that apply to you? Well, what I did for this book was between 2013 and 2015. I wrote one article every single week on LinkedIn. And then what I did was, once I had 104 articles, I repurposed this into a book. It helps you work smarter and not harder. Of course, I had to change the chapters a little bit to make it flow better. And then what I did is I repurposed every chapter in this book in terms of many different courses I've made, many different vlogs, etc. And it helps you work smarter and not harder. Yeah. All right. Holy, you asked for a short question. I gave you a whole encyclopedia there. Sorry for that. Okay. By the way, when you use ChatGPT or Bing Chat or Google Bard, and I give you examples of how to use all of them in advanced level today if you want. But I always say, give me the answer in 25 words. So you can type that too, and I'll give you shorter answers. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next question is, what advice do you have for networking and building professional relationships on LinkedIn? Yeah. So number one, you want to have an up-to-date and perfected LinkedIn profile. And if you want, you can check out my MBA degree program. A lot of the profits from what I do go to charities and to building schools overseas and scholarships. I'm not sponsored by anybody. But in my MBA degree program, which you can learn about at harounmba.com, what I teach in the first semester or so is exactly how to network, how to create an amazing resume, how to create an incredible LinkedIn profile. And for those of you already in the Silver MBA program, I want you to watch PG 1-1 through PG 1-11. That's Personal Growth Semester 1, Class 1, through Personal Growth Semester 1, Class 11. And by the time you're done with that, you'll have a perfected LinkedIn profile. After your LinkedIn profile is perfected, then start networking. And the way to network is you want to reach out to people on LinkedIn that you have at least 2 things in common with. And you want to keep your emails very short. And don't use email, because nobody checks emails, but we all have opened every email. I know you all have. I have, that you've ever received. And so in the email, you type this. Subject line, hi. They're going to read it anyway. Contents of the message. John, hope all is well. And here's where I'm going to get 2 things in common with them. I'm also from Mississauga, and I also went to the Toronto French School, and I live here in the Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a coffee or a Zoom meeting. Thanks a lot, your future boss. Chris, of course, not your future boss. My dad humor is awful. And by the way, with all my courses and my MBA program, there's a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee, which many of you will want to get because my dad humor is so awful. But you want to find 2 things in common. And that was true for me. I'm from Mississauga, and I went to the Toronto French School. And if you think people aren't going to answer that email, or in-mail, I should say, think again. Because imagine this. It's 20 years in the future. And you're 20 years more successful than you already are. And somebody 20 years younger than you that reminds you of yourself reaches out to you and asks for help or a meeting. Would you take that meeting? You bet you would. Don't say what the meeting is for, though. And that's not being unethical. The reason I say don't mention what the meeting is about, unless they ask, is because they might not respond. So if you write something like, I'm trying to find a job, or get a job, or get a customer, they might feel bad they can't help you, so they might not answer. Yeah. And so during that informational meeting, and remember, relationships are more important than product knowledge, and your network is your net worth. During that informational meeting, in the first 10 minutes, I want you to bond. I want you to talk about what you have in common with them. And then after about 10 minutes into that meeting, they're going to say something like this. They won't say it like this, but they'll say, why are we meeting? They'll say it nicer than that. Then you mention that you're interested in learning more about their career path and how they were able to get whatever job it is you want to get. And don't forget to ask at the end of that meeting if they are hiring or if they know anybody that also has stuff in common with us. They're from Mississauga or went to the Toronto French School that might be hiring. Do this 20 times for each company you want to work at. Rinse, lather, repeat. And I promise you, you will get that coveted job. Because every time you see a job opening online, you have literally a 1 in 250 chance of getting that job. So who gets that job? Well, it's usually the person that knows somebody at that company. So if these are the new unwritten rules of e-commerce and getting a job, then network. Meet 20 or 30 people in the company you want to work at and network with them. And I promise you, you will eventually get that job. You only have to be right in business one time, and one meeting can change your life. Yeah. All right. Next question is from Rahul, who wrote, can you share a specific example of a challenging project or decision you faced and how you resolved it? Yeah, absolutely. Now, earlier in today's call, I mentioned that without data, it's an opinion and nothing more. So I'm going to show you how to all decide what to do if you come to a fork in the road, meaning a difficult decision. And as Yogi Berra said, when you see a fork in the road, you take it. I'm dating myself. That's a great old quote. So for me, and I'm going to show you how to quantify this in a second. It was 2003, early May. I was at Goldman Sachs, and I was there 5 years, including internship and working part-time. And I got a job offer from a hedge fund, and I wasn't sure if I should go or stay at Goldman. So here's what I did, and here's what you can do. Whenever you have a difficult situation, I want you to quantify it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. There's 2 decisions to make. This is decision. This here is decision A, okay? This here is A, decision B, okay? And what I want you to do is write down 50 to 100 criteria right here. I'm just going to write a couple, okay? Make more money, nice people, less travel. Okay, so this here is, am I going to go to company A or company B, right? So which one you make more money at? Well, let's say that company A, I make a lot more money at. So out of 10, I'll give that a 10. In terms of how much money I make at company B, meaning my current job where I am, let's just say it's not as much, 7 out of 10. Next criteria, nice people, the corporate culture. For company A, I'm thinking of going to, assume it's very cutthroat. Hedge funds are. So I would say 3 out of 10. Decision B, stay at Goldman Sachs. This is true. I thought 10 out of 10 because people there are pretty cool. To get into Goldman, you have to do like a 50 interview or something crazy like that. They don't hire the smartest people, but they hire people who get along. And then here, less travel or more travel. At Goldman, there was a lot of travel for me, which wasn't cool because I wanted to see my family. Low. But the hedge fund, there was some travel, not too much. Okay. Now you have this here. What you can do is you can either add up the total to help you decide what to do, right? And I'm going to show you how to quantify this with statistics in a second. All right, so equals sum 19, okay? And this here is Goldman Sachs, stay there. And this here is a hedge fund, okay? Now you'll see here that this scored higher, so I should choose this. But what I did also was this. I added a weighting. Okay, so you want a probability weighted as well. So I'll call it weighting. How important out of 1, so 0 to 1, how important out of 100% is making more money? Well, at that point in my life, it was really important. So I made it 90%. Okay. And then here, nice people, was that important to me? Younger, when I was in my career before, I was impatient, so I would say less so. Less travel, that was kind of important to me. So out of 1, I'll make that a 0.8. And then what you do, and I'm going to make this kind of messy, but I want to show you how to calculate this. Then what you're going to do is you're going to weight it. So that times that. Okay, copy, good. And then we'll get the sum again, and I'll do the exact same thing here. That times the weighting, copy. Whoops. Okay. And now going to a hedge fund made more sense for me. Okay. You want to quantify it. And the reality is I had more than 50 questions I answered there when I was deciding, should I leave Goldman to go to hedge fund, etc. So that's how you make a difficult decision. You quantify it. All right. All right, next question is from Rahul, which is, do you have any advice on leadership and management skills? Yeah. So I think a great leader is somebody that can motivate the workforce or their students, for example, or their children, and instill a sense of confidence. That's the most important gift a parent can give a child, is a sense of confidence. The same thing with a teacher, the same thing with a leader. Because with confidence, you can accomplish anything, and there are no limits. Also, there's a brilliant CEO named Godfrey Sullivan. He was the CEO of Hyperion years ago, a company that Oracle bought. And then he became the CEO of Splunk, ticker SPLK. He was there for the IPO. He left after the IPO. And whenever I meet somebody more successful than me, which is every meeting, I always ask them for advice. I say, give me one piece of advice that's not taught in business schools. And Godfrey told me, when I manage people, I like to praise in public and criticize in private. And I thought that was a beautiful thing, because there's nothing worse than being berated or criticized in front of all your peers. It destroys your morale, makes you want to look for another job, and it destroys the culture of the firm as well. So I would say, number 1, leaders motivate people and build confidence. And then lastly, they criticize in private, but not in public. Yeah. And also, I don't believe in meetings unless they're essential. So I think a good leader can, have team building events, but not have too many meetings. Otherwise, what they're trying to do is micromanage, which destroys everybody's confidence. You never want to micromanage. And when I manage people, what I've always done, especially with newer employees that don't have that much experience, I have them send me like a weekly email or daily if they're just starting. And in that email, and this is great for all of you that manage people remotely, In that email, there's 3 components. Number 1, they say, what did you accomplish today? Number 2, what are you going to accomplish tomorrow? And number 3, or threeth, as my son used to say, do you have any questions, issues, etc.? So with a relatively new employee, you can do that daily, and then weekly, then monthly, that sort of thing. Yeah. All right. Pearl, hey, Pearl, how are you? Pearl wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise, great to see you. You wrote, who's allowed to trade on the CME? Are foreign companies allowed to trade? Thank you. Yeah. Let me talk about options and futures and derivatives from a high-level perspective. Okay, so there's major exchanges where you can trade futures and options. There's the CME, and then there's the CBOE. And in order for a company, for example, to be listed, to be able to have options traded on that company, there has to be a market for it. And traders and the exchanges will decide themselves. And the way to know if you can transact in options, and please be careful with this because you can lose more than you invest. The way to know is you type up the ticker for any company, finance.yahoo.com, and never pay for any research online or data feeds. You get it all free in Yahoo Finance. Everything you can do on Bloomberg, except for Bloomberg GPT, you can do right here I'm about to show you. So you type up a stock, Tesla or any stock. And the way you know that options are available is if you click here and you see information under options, right? And so Tesla trades a lot. Newly listed companies usually don't have options until at least 6 months after IPO. Now, options and futures and derivative instruments in general can help you a lot in terms of portfolio protection, risk management. It's like an insurance policy. And the global derivatives market is so big, it's 6 times bigger than the global stock market. Yeah, market cap. It's unbelievable. But just be careful if you're going to transact in options. I teach about this in my MBA degree program as well. I always recommend that you practice options for at least 6 months first before you invest. I can go in a lot more detail on that if you want me to. You guys can guide the conversation and questions, please. All right. In order to transact in options and derivative instruments, if you're a retail investor, you have to get what's called a margin account, which means you fill out a lot of paperwork, and there's different levels as well, to indicate that you can borrow money to invest, because that's basically what options are. Please be careful with this. If you want to practice options, I recommend using a free application called Think or Swim, which is made by TD Ameritrade. And what you can do when you log in is you can select real portfolio or paper portfolio. Practice first for a while. Yeah. All right, Rose. Hey, Rose, how are you? Rose is from the great state of Virginia. Rose was in my my first MBA class back in 2019. She's great. Great to see you. She was ahead of the yearbook as well. Did a great job. So Rose wrote, good morning, Chris. It's good to be back on. Always good to have you back. It's good to see you. Yeah. You wrote, I haven't been present in a while because I ended up getting the job I wanted. You wrote that all in caps. Nicely done. You wrote, I got the job I wanted. Thanks for all your help. The resume and interview lectures truly helped me. Awesome. Very happy for you. Okay. Next up, Anirban wrote, are these additional live sessions apart from the weekly live silver for MBA students? Yeah. So my weekly on-demand MBA degree program, I have a call. It's every Thursday starting at 10 a.m. So just after this call. And it's a Zoom call. And during that Zoom call, I help my MBA students with their LinkedIn profile, questions they have about business models, anything they ask me about. And if you're in the Silver MBA program, what you can do is just go to the first lecture and you can see the link for this week's and every week's Zoom call. Yeah, it lasts 1 hour. Yeah. And if you're in my Gold and Platinum MBA program, I'm launching another one next year. If you're in my Gold and Platinum MBA program, you can. There's a 2-hour call every week, every Thursday from 11:20 until 1:20. That's Zoom as well. Yeah. Okay. Salu wrote, always an interesting, exciting experience to attend these live sessions. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's not work for me. It's fun. I love it. I used to do these things all day. My record was October 31st, 2019. I did it. I started at 8 a.m. and I ended around 4:30 p.m. And you can go to my YouTube channel. You'll see it's still there. And I didn't get up once. Yeah. But I used to sit back then. I don't sit anymore because a couple of people complained. And one data point doesn't make a trend, but a couple does. A couple people complained that I didn't sound energetic. So I stand. And I also have a treadmill, as many of you know, in my office here. So right before this call started, and after this call is done, I walk all day. And I get so much done. I'm so productive because I'm feeding this and this. And I learned when I was younger that, 1 hour of studying first thing in the morning is the equivalent of 10 hours at night. You're fresh. And if you exercise all day long while you work, you're just as productive all day long as you are in the first hour of the day. So a 10-hour workday becomes a 100-hour workday in terms of productivity. Yeah, it works. Okay, as well as lots of water. All right. Next up, I have got here J.R. Goldman. How are you? George from Long Island. You're in my silver class. Great to see you. I'm glad I was able to update that refund status thing for you. Great to see you. And I'm so sorry I had to reschedule meetings. And I know you had a one-on-one with me giving a presentation to a big company that day. Thanks. Good to see you. All right. Next up, I've got Eric and John wrote, good morning, Chris. It's kind of weird saying that when it's evening for me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good to see you. I got that from The Truman Show. Great movie. You guys got to check out The Truman Show. It basically predicted the obscurity of social media back in 1998 when it came out. So Jim Carrey's in it. It's got a great soundtrack too. All right. Next up, Robert wrote, would you explain your Silver on-demand MBA? Yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 second. I just lost where I was. It jumps on me, so I'm going to do a search, Control F for the word silver. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah. So yeah, the Silver, my MBA degree program, you can learn more at harounmba.com. MBA stands for Married But Available. I'm kidding. This never comes off. I love my wife so much. She's great. Yeah. I think she feels the same way. But the Silver MBA program, it's not a repeat of Udemy classes. It's all brand new content. There are some electives, shorter courses that you get for free, though, that are also available on Udemy. But it's between 300 and 500 hours of brand new content. And to learn more about it, and I'll make this quick, I promise, you can go to my website, Haroun MBA, and then just scroll down to read about the program. And then I'm sure there's you click this button here. Yeah. And Cassandra just changed my website. I love the way it looks. Nice job, Cassandra. Amazing. Okay. All right. And then next up, hey, Ted, how are you? Ted wrote, good morning, Chris. What do lawyers wear to work? Lawsuits. Oh, I love it. I love it. That was a good one. I'm going to use that and tell my kids that too. That's great dad humor. I love it. Please share dad humor with me, everybody. I love this stuff. Thank you. All right. Next question is, how do you plan your everyday work and motivate yourself? Yeah. So earlier in the webcast, I showed you a scheduler that you can download for free from harounmba.com/all lowercase schedule. Yeah. In terms of motivating myself, I take a lot of breaks. I do. And I exercise too every day. I'm now on day 64 of exercising every day in a row without taking a day off. Right? It's a great investment in yourself. I also try my best to take at least one day off a week, every week. And the basis of many amazing religions is you take one day off a week. Because thousands of years ago, our forefathers and foremothers knew that you can burn out. And that's why God rested on the seventh day. Yeah. So for me, it's Sunday. For a lot of my other friends, it's a Saturday and Friday. Yeah, for my other friends as well, depending what religion you're in. Yeah. Take your breaks. Yeah. And also, don't stress out about stuff either. Things are never as bad as you think they are. And it was Winston Churchill who once said, I met a man on his deathbed who talked about all the worries he had in his life, none of which came true. And Dale Carnegie, who's my favorite author, and everyone's got to read that book by him called How to Win Friends and Influence People. But Dale Carnegie once said, it's not work that kills us, it's worry. And what I tell myself, and earmuffs time if you're not religious, but I'm going there because I can, I want to. But whenever I stress out about stuff, which is not that often, I feel like it's disrespectful and sacrilegious because God already knows what's going to happen. And that puts me at ease. Okay. All right. And by the way, if you're ever working on something that's really, really important, work-wise or school-wise or whatever it is, if you're not in the right frame of mind and it feels like work, take a break. Come back to it the next day. And my humble goal and life purpose is to help all of you find your purpose and your passion in life. And the way you know you found your purpose or passion or raison d'être in life work-wise is if you get out of bed in the morning and tell yourself, I'm not going to work. I love this. Yeah. And so in my MBA program, I think of myself like I'm a waiter. Okay. And you're all my customers. And when you go to a restaurant, this is where I proposed to my wife in Paris 8 million years ago. She hasn't aged, I have. But when you go to a restaurant, you don't order everything. You look at the menu, you order one or two things. My job is to be your waiter, to expose you to all different types of careers so that you can order or find your passion or raison d'être in life. Yeah. I don't know if I'm a good waiter with bad food or vice versa. Maybe a combination of both. All right. Next question is from, hey, Mike. Mike wrote, hey, Chris, can you please explain swing trading? And is it potentially more profitable than day trading? Yeah, I'm not the right person to ask about that. I don't think that day trading is profitable at all. And I say it with love in my heart. I love you guys. It's a recipe for disaster to make day trading your career. And I say that because it's like going to a casino. And the worst thing that can happen is to go into a casino the first time and make money. Just like the worst thing that can happen when you're day trading is to make money the first time you do it. Because ultimately you get fooled by randomness. You know, every month has 20 weekdays. That means 20 days the market's open. And stocks go up and down in a short amount of time because of stuff outside of our control. And we ultimately get fooled by randomness. And do a search if you want. Search Google, Bing, whatever, to find successful day traders. I can't name one. As Warren Buffett said, the longer the view, the wiser the intention. Yeah. And Warren Buffett also said the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff and it goes on sale. Just be long-term focused. It's a lot less stressful way to invest as well. Yeah. In my humble opinion. All right, we have Caroline from France who lives in Ontario. She wrote, good morning, Chris. Thank you for that. And you gave paw prints for your two cats, Moo and Mimi, right? Yeah. And I'll see you today on the weekly silver call too. Always good to see you. Hope you're enjoying your boat. Next up, English with Adar wrote, good afternoon from Nigeria. How are you? Pleasure. I just got your MBA course on Udemy and loving what I'm learning. Thank you. Thank you. I want to ask how to engage potential clients for online English tutoring on LinkedIn. I want you to think of yourself as a thought leader. I want everybody in this call to think of yourself as a thought leader, right? Whatever you're most passionate about, I want you to write about it, opine a lot about it. So when it comes to learning English or teaching English on LinkedIn, for example, what you can do is every now and then post an article, maybe once a week or once a month, to provide tips on how to learn English. It might be something as simplistic as this. The best way to learn a language is to turn on closed captions and mute the television, and that's how you learn. Simplistic things like that. And then once you come up with a list of 10, 20, or 101 different tips for whatever it is you're all passionate about, teaching English in your case, you can create a book version of that as well and repurpose the content. Yeah. Now, when you're creating an article, a couple of rules. Number one, no more than 600 words. Number two, no more than 3 sentences per paragraph. Number three, and most importantly, create an amazing title. And if you need help with the title, you can ask ChatGPT if you want to. Don't forget to have an incredible image as well with a lot of color in it. You can also use pop culture as well. So for me, for example, one of my best performing LinkedIn articles, where I think 13,000 likes or whatever it was years ago. I created an article where I talked about how we all need Yodas or mentors. So it's a catchy title. And there's also a picture of Yoda with a bright green lightsaber. Bright colors work. Yeah. All right. Next up, and by the way, you got to repurpose everything. So it's not just articles going to books. But this weekly call, for example, by the time we're done with it, there's nothing left on the carcass, so to speak, because my social media team, they'll take the 7 best questions asked and turn them into 7 vlogs or Instagram videos, LinkedIn posts, or even TikToks now. Yeah. It helps us work smarter and not harder. And it's free. All right, next up, Abel wrote, hey, Chris, hope all is well. Likewise, good to see you. Can you please explain how interest rates work? What does refinancing mean? Yeah, absolutely. So the way it works, and I have a prop for everything. The way it works is governments control the amount of money that's out there. Okay, so let's pretend I'm the government. Okay, I'm the Federal Reserve or the bank of whatever country people are in, Bank of Canada, etc. And you're all retail investors or institutional investors. I'm the government. So what I can do, and I'll show you this prop in a second, is I can put more money out there. And the more money I put out there, the more the price goes down for money, right? So think about it in any sense. Like if there's more PS5s out there, then the price of PS5s goes down. Same thing with money. How do I do that as a government? Well, I buy and sell bonds. Okay. And what I do with that is I issue money that way. And this is all fake money as I'm a fake teacher. So what I can do is, let's say that you own bonds. I can buy them back from you. Okay, I'm the government. When I buy the bond back from you, I give you money. Okay, fake money. You give me the bond back. And what I just did there was I put more money out there. And when there's more money out there or supply of anything goes up, the price goes down. And vice versa, I can sell bonds. If I want interest rates to go up, what I do is I sell bonds. So I'm the government, you're an investor. When I sell you a bond, you give me your cash. I give you the bond. I take a lot of this cash out of circulation. All of a sudden, there's less supply. Whenever there's less supply of anything, the price goes up. That's how interest rates go up. Now, the reason I'm using a gun here as a silly prop is because governments, when times are good, governments have to raise interest rates. Otherwise, we get inflation. But more importantly, if they don't raise interest rates, then when times are bad, they can't cut interest rates to jumpstart the economy. That's how it works. Yeah. In terms of your other question on refinancing, basically what that means is this. Let's say that you buy a house and you get a 30-year mortgage. And right now, the 30-year fixed rate is about 8%. It's brutally high. And let's say that you're locked in for 30 years. And then interest rates go down a lot. So now the 30-year rate is 5%, let's say, for example. It went down 300 basis points to 3%. You can refinance. And what that means is you trade in this loan, get a new one. You'll pay some fees and stuff, but you'll save money in the long run. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Abel wrote, how many pages should my resume be when I apply for a job? Yeah, 1 page max. And the format you want to use is the Harvard Business School format, which lists education, work experience, personal or / other. 3 things. The power of three works. Steve Jobs used to talk about this. The most beautiful photographs in the world have thirds in it. The rule of third. And it's all we can handle on a slide. 3 bullet points or 3 sections on a piece of paper. Less is more. No more than 1 page. Yeah. Okay. And then Mike wrote, by the way, your commercials for your courses are really good. Well done. Thank you. Appreciate it. And I went way over the top with an Excel commercial earlier this year, which was so much fun to make. Yeah. I don't have a job. I have a passion. Yeah. Although I am a bad actor. But I'm getting better. Okay. Eric and John wrote, wow, a great video, Chris. Thank you. Do you use ChatGPT? And you wrote, just kidding. Great. Thank you. No, I do a lot, actually. Yeah. Yeah. And I've got something very special planned for all of you when it comes to that coming soon. Yeah. But if you guys have questions about ChatGPT, Bard, Claude, Bard as well by Google, I've done a ton of research on this and I can help you. I can actually help you with your interviews as well by showing you how to use ChatGPT. Yeah. Okay. And actually, ChatGPT has incredible charting capabilities now. So whenever you ask a question, a business question, like explain the total addressable market for Apple, for example, and the growth rate of the total addressable market, it gives you an answer. Then you can go to the advanced data analysis feature within ChatGPT Plus and ask it to make a chart. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah. My favorite one, though, is Claude.ai. Yeah. Okay. Eric, how are you? Eric was my first MBA student to write a book. He published it in early January 2020. It's called Ego Trip. Eric, great to see you. And Eric used to work at Apple and Bristol Myers. So Eric wrote, 250th webcast. Congrats, Chris. Thank you. Thank you. You wrote, good morning to all. Hope all is well. I'm looking forward to the interview next week. It's going to be awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. Brent Thill is also one of the best stock pickers. I remember in 2003 when I worked at a hedge fund in New York City called Kingdon. I remember he helped me a lot with a stock called Novell. It was a Linux play at the time. Ticker was NOVL. Jack Messman was the CEO. A private equity firm bought it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Priam wrote, hi, Chris. You look stunning. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe I'm beautiful. Maybe it's Maybelline. Just kidding. Yeah. Oh, no. Thank you. And then you wrote, are there any differences on how you do your investing the old school way versus the new school way? Thanks. Yeah. I like to keep it pretty simple. In my MBA program, I provide you all with a lot of templates and 100-step research outline as well to create great research reports or one-page executive summaries. But I like to keep it simple, and I like to ask myself a basic question when I'm doing research, which is this. In 5 years, is this company and the sector it's in going to be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? The reason I do that is it stops me from getting seduced into buying value traps, meaning stocks that are cheap for a reason. Yeah. And there was a portfolio manager named Peter Lynch, and he ran the flagship Magellan Fund at Fidelity back in the 1980s and 90s. And one of the ways that he did incredibly well was he invested in what he understood, and he invested in products that he and his wife would test. And there's a great book that he wrote called One Up on Wall Street that I recommend you read. It's great. Invest in what you know and what you understand. Yeah. And when I used to work at a big hedge fund called Citadel, my boss used to always say to me, Chris, if you can't explain it, you don't understand it. So invest in what you understand. Yeah. And be long-term focused, of course. Yeah. And when Warren Buffett buys a stock, he always tells himself, I don't care if the stock market is closed for 10 years. Right? He assumes the market's going to be closed. Obviously, he knows it's not going to be closed for 10 years. But that's how long-term focused he is. Yeah. And if you get a chance, pull up a chart of the S&P 500 over the past 50 years. Just buy the S&P and hold forever. And if you don't have time to do investment research on stocks, buy ticker VOO. Okay, and that's the ETF for the S&P 500. Yeah. All right. All right, next up, Eric wrote a question. I'm applying for a government train the trainer role. An insider told me there could be a mismatch perceived because I worked at fast-moving international companies. Yeah. So here's what I would do. I would, and I'm going to show you guys how to turn a weakness into a strength using ChatGPT. But first, let me take a crack at this before asking ChatGPT. What I would say is this to the interviewer. I would say I've been exposed to lots of different styles of management over the years and L&D programs when I worked at Apple as well, which you did, I know, as well as when I worked at Bristol Myers. I worked at a global tech company and a global healthcare company. So I've been exposed to many different ways of thinking, many different management practices. Although they might come across as being fast moving, these companies have very, very long-term outlooks when it comes to product strategy and learning and development. Okay, now let's go together to ChatGPT, and I'm going to show you how to take a weakness and turn it into a strength. Here's Brent Thill, good guy. ChatGPT. Okay, and let me use number 4 here. Okay, good. Okay. I have a job interview. I used to work at Apple and ticker BMY. Can't remember how to spell Bristol Myers. My interviewer thinks a weakness is I worked at fast-moving companies. In 50 words, turn this weakness into a strength. Your experience at fast-paced companies like Apple and Bristol Myers has equipped you with the ability to adapt quickly, make data-driven decisions, and perform under pressure. That's right. These skills are transferable and valuable for any organization looking to innovate and stay competitive. You bring a unique dynamic efficiency to the team. There you go. And you can use that, everybody in this call, if you think you have a weakness and you're interviewing, ask ChatGPT in 50 words or less to turn that weakness into a strength. Okay. The same thing with your business model or your company. If you're selling a product and there's a certain weakness to it, tell ChatGPT what that weakness is and ask it to turn that weakness into a strength. Yeah. Perception becomes reality. Okay. Next up, Christian wrote, how long should it take to master Excel, Hal? I mean, how long should it take to master Excel using your Excel course? I'm a newbie with Excel. Yeah. So the course is 13 hours long, including exercises. I'd budget 20 hours in total. If you take that course over 20 hours, I think you'll be an expert. But as Tony Robbins says, repetition is the mother of all skill. You got to practice this stuff over and over again. And I love Excel. I'm so passionate about it. I've been using Excel since the 1980s. Whenever I open an Excel spreadsheet, I think of it as a blank template. And I'm a painter, like Bob Ross. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to create using Excel. Yeah. And if you ever have any questions, you can always ask me here in the course, whatever you want. I'm always here to help. And I was sad when that course was over. When I finished making it, I had so much fun. So I just finished recording with Luca Anderson, who's here right now with me. He's staying at my house for 6 weeks. He's from Serbia. Google called him one of the top 150 machine learning experts in the world. We just finished recording our Python course. It's massive. We had so much fun doing it. We teach it with tons of props. And we're also recording 10 more courses together. Tech courses you're going to love. And a lot of them will be out by the end of this year, and then in Q1 of next year as well. Yeah. And in my MBA program, there's 6 pillars to it. One of them is tech. So I'm teaching tons of tech stuff as well, which is a blast. I'm having fun. And Luca's my brother. He's a good guy. Okay. All right, next up, Anurag. Hey, Anurag, how are you? Wrote, hi, Chris. Do you think the United States will slip into a recession? I heard Mahmoud Noorani mention that in his video. Yeah, thank you for that. So I interviewed Mahmoud earlier this year on my YouTube channel. He's one of the best economists in the world and a great guy. and he explained fixed income and government policy to us in that webcast. Back then, I think that was in April or May, he said that there was a 50% probability by the end of the year that we'd be in a recession. But that was before certain economic data points came out. And so the top economists in the world, including, I think, Mahmoud, are now saying it's a 15% chance we'll have a recession by next year. Yeah. And the reason why a lot of people were talking about a recession then and now is because the yield curve, and I can go there if you want me to, the yield curve, which you can get the data for at treasury.gov, shows that rates are here now, but in 30-year rates will be here. And that's called an inverted yield curve. Usually the yield curve looks like this. The yield curve is inverted, meaning rates are going to be lower in 30 years. And what that means is this. The market is saying rates are going to be lower in the future, which means that things are going to be bad in the future, so the government's going to have to cut interest rates to stimulate the economy. Usually the yield curve is not inverted. It looks like this. Short-term rates are here, long-term rates are here. Because in the future, when times are good, the government's going to have to raise rates. Yeah. Inverted yield curve, more often than not, assumes we could be going into recession. It's not always right. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Anurag's asking about the buzz with generative AI. What is the differentiation with AI? Well, in general, a lot of people are scared of AI because they don't understand it. I don't fully understand it. ChatGPT is basically a black box. We don't know what goes into it. But I think that AI is a great enabler for us in the long run. How? Because it can help us to focus less time on repetitive tasks and more time on innovation. But there has to be regulation, right? And so a lot of the top companies in the world, they've created new positions called CAIE, Chief Artificial Intelligence Executive. Yeah, CAIE. Like Dell Computers, for example, Dell Incorporated. Jeff Boudreau just got appointed as the head of AI compliance. And all countries are going to have their own department of AI ethics as well. It's going to be, if it's not already, part of GPDR. And you always have to love European government officials because what they do is they ensure that global companies, tech companies especially, really pay attention to privacy. Yeah. Okay. And Chibike wrote, I like the video. Thank you. Pulasi wrote, Chris, how are you? I'm always great. Thanks. I hope you're doing well. Next question is, how often do you still program? All the time. I absolutely love it. Yeah. And he wrote, and do you think it's possible to be both an elite programmer and an investor, or do I have to choose one? No, you can do both. Whatever you're passionate about, you will be good at, right? And I never recommend anybody go work at a tech company as a programmer or developer unless you're really passionate about it. And here in Silicon Valley, I used to work in venture capital. We always say the difference between an average programmer and an amazing programmer is literally 10x in terms of performance because they're passionate about it. Yeah. In terms of coding now, I'll show you the most recent platform I use. I have Visual Studio as well. I was just playing around with C++, which I'm not an expert at. But I use something called Google Colab. Okay. And so Colab is... So Colab, it's like Gmail. It's offered by Google. And this here is Python. And allows you to run code here and online. If you work at a big company, I wouldn't use this, though, because it's not secure. Everything is being run up in the cloud. This here is Python. Yeah. It's fun. And the Python course is coming out soon. And for all of you, my MBA program, you'll get that for free as well as part of the curriculum. Yeah. All right. And then Lathrop, Chris, thank you for that. God bless you. Thank you. Okay. Manas, how are you? Manas is based in India. He published a book, which I bought, called Bonds Before Business, which is excellent. He's also an amazing instructor on Udemy as well. Great to see you. You wrote, hello, good morning, my dear mentor. Chris, please. Hope all is well. And then he wrote, oil is rising. Yeah. And will it push the goalpost down? Yeah. If we get to 100, yeah, it's so sad what's happening overseas. You read the same news I read. If not handled correctly, it could lead to a spike in certain commodity prices. Yeah. I pray daily that this situation gets resolved. Yeah. And then you wrote here, Putin has passed a resolution that tests new nukes for the first time in 26 years. Is this the beginning of a Cold War or a small war or just FUD? FUD saying for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Yeah. Oof. So my kids asked me, when Russia, first invaded Ukraine, they said, "Dad, how long will this last?" And I said, "Well, it's decades." And I was explaining to them that the first Cold War started in 1947 and existed my whole life, basically. And then the early 1990s, we had perestroika and glasnost and the peace dividend when communism fell apart. And Putin certainly disagreed with Gorbachev in terms of dismantling the USSR. And so he wants to reassemble it. It's tragic. Yeah. I'm not a fan of communist filth. Yeah. I hate anything that can take away, how my students can progress in society. I hate limits. I hate ceilings. I loathe communism. Yeah. But I am a big fan of globalization because I think if the United States, China, and all countries are really attached to each other, which they kind of are from a global trade perspective, then it means we have to all get along. Yeah. All right. Next up, hey, Chris Cope. First time I've seen you on the call. I hope you join us again. Chris wrote here, what are the top books you recommend reading for business? Yeah. So the most important one I recommend is the Dale Carnegie masterpiece called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's an oldie but a goodie, written in the 1930s and updated a lot since then. And it teaches you about how to talk to people, how to reason, etc. And understand that quite often, this is weird, he said that quite often understand that people are creatures of emotion and not creatures of logic. Yeah. And just be unemotional in business in general, especially when it comes to investing. Aside from that, I don't really have any other books to recommend. What I would say is anybody that you want to aspire to be like or learn from, read their autobiographies or biographies. And I love learning from industry icons. So right now, I recommend you all read the Walter Isaacson book by Elon Musk. And so Walter Isaacson wrote a groundbreaking book on Steve Jobs back in 2012 or so. Alexa, read my book.
Getting your selection from Audible. Resuming Elon Musk.
Checks and balances on each other.
Alexa, stop. Yeah. The great thing about reading biographies or listening to biographies or autobiographies is really successful people, they share their tips. And that's one of the reasons they became successful, a lot of them, because they help other people. So that's if the blueprint for success is freely available out there in terms of biographies and autobiographies, you got to be a voracious reader. Yeah. Okay. And then Manas wrote, one of my courses on AI videos and graphics has been now as the highest rated on Udemy. Congratulations. And now you get a big chunk of that credit. Thank you for making me a teacher. Thank you for everything. You're most welcome, and thank you for inspiring all of us. Yeah. When one teaches, two learn. So thank you for everybody's amazing questions, always. Thanks. That's how I learn. Yeah. And then you wrote, okay. Next question is, I have a basic question. In 2021, when Bitcoin reached an ATH, all-time high, but now only Bitcoin is moving and the rest of the market is still anything, why are people more into Bitcoin? Well, I certainly am. Yeah. So now I've said this for years. at least 95% of all cryptocurrencies are an absolute scam, right? So what's the lowest risk investment in crypto? It's Bitcoin. People think of Bitcoin as being like digital gold. This is fake. As being digital gold. Yeah. And the great thing about Bitcoin is that there's a dearth of supply. You want to invest in things when there's a limit of supply. Otherwise, just like, cash is trash, fake money here, but cash is trash because there's no limit on supply. And with Bitcoin, there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins minted or created or mined by the year 2140. Yeah. Everything is relative in investing land, always. Kind of like the United States is the very last company, so to speak, to go bankrupt. So when times get tough, sometimes the US dollar goes up because it's a flight to quality. Yeah. The same thing with cryptos. Times are tough now. The global stock markets have pulled back 10% from the peak from last summer. And so, people are basically investing in more lower risk stuff. It's all relative. Yeah. And please, 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 I'm going to get down on my knees because I love you guys. Don't put more than 5% of your liquid net worth in cryptos. And if you're going to do that, I don't want more than 0.5% of your liquid net worth to be in any one crypto. Yeah. Until we get some sort of regulation. Okay. All right, next up, Manas wrote, how many hikes, meaning rate increases, are pending, and will the Fed keep raising rates over 2024 because inflation is not low and rising would make things worse? What do you think for 3 and 15 months? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if oil doesn't spike materially, I would think maybe 1 or 2 more rate increases of 25 to 50 basis points. Yeah, but it all depends on the unemployment data and the inflation data. Yeah. Okay. But the U.S. consumer has been unbelievably resilient. And, 2/3 of the U.S. economy is consumer spending. Yeah. And I think part of the reason why consumer spending has kept up is because of the pandemic. During the pandemic, this new philosophy emerged, especially from younger people, which is the YOLO economy, YOLO, which stands for you only live once. So people are still spending. Yeah. It's not a bad thing. Okay. And then he wrote, have you worked with crypto options? So I have an options course, and at the last second, I took out crypto from that course. Yeah. So I just don't think it's a mature enough market yet. It's dangerous. Yeah. But it's like any other option, right? And so I have an options course, which is part of my MBA program, where I provide you with 35 different option strategies and templates. You can enter in a crypto ticker into those templates I provide you with. It's the same thing. It prices the assets the same way. I can go into more detail on that if you want me to. Yeah. Okay. Andre. Oh my God. Andre, how are you? Andre wrote, it's been a while. I'm in New York now. Great to see you. Okay. You moved there with your wife and your son from Brazil. And so Andre is a priest. He's a pastor. Great guy. He's my spiritual advisor too. And thank you so much for that one call we did. And I have to share what he said to me in a second with all of you. So Andre loves programming. He's from Brooklyn, I think, originally, right? And your mom must be really happy you're home now. Yeah. Welcome home. Yeah. But I once talked to Andre, who's a pastor, and he told me this. It was interesting. He said, when you go to court, you're basically the judge and the lawyers talk about what you did wrong, not what you did right. And he told me the same logic, from a spirituality perspective. When we pass away and we're being judged up in heaven, hopefully, knock on wood, God's going to talk about not just what you did right. And so, two wrong, you can't do really, really good stuff to offset bad stuff you've done. I know it sounds out there a little convoluted, but it really changed the way I think about my future, etc. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, how big is AI going to be in terms of the economy, like Bitcoin? Is it $1 trillion asset? How big will it be for the S&P Nikkei, Nifty, Sensex? Yeah, India. Yeah, India market. Yeah, it's going to be massive. It's going to be it's the biggest paradigm shift and the most important technology invention since the internet was made commercially available with the Netscape browser back in 1995. It's a big deal. So think about how the internet has impacted all companies in terms of having digital storefronts. That's how big AI is going to be. At least as big, if not bigger. Yeah. And according to Ray Kurzweil, who headed up engineering at Apple, and he also is brilliant when it comes to talking about life extension. Ray Kurzweil said that by 2029, the intelligence of computers, meaning AI, will surpass humans. Yeah. And God willing, by then, we'll have regulations in place. I believe in small government, but I believe in government to protect us. Hopefully by then there will be certain regulations in place that will keep AI in check. Things are happening fast. And even Warren Buffett, he talked about AI and he said, once you open Pandora's box with AI, there's no going back. Yeah. Okay. And then George from Long Island wrote, Chris, great, much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, Manas is next here, who wrote, if you meet a historical figure of your choice, what would you ask, or maybe what would you say, or what would you do with them, your choice? So for me, it would be Jesus. I would just ask for advice on how I can help other people in life. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, India is suffering from a brain drain. And we have that in Canada too. What that means is, highly skilled labor moving to another country. In Canada, the brain drain was to come down to the United States. Yeah. Although Canada is better off since I've left Canada. Yeah. So you're right, we have an issue with the brain drain. A huge part of the talented workforce is moving out of country and leaving citizenship as well. It is increasingly difficult to retain top guys. And then you wrote, what are your thoughts? Yeah. I mean, India is, I'm bullish. I'm really bullish on India longer term. I think the United States dollar is going to be a reserve currency for the rest of my life. But if there's any country that may be the reserve currency, I think it's going to be India. Biggest democracy in the world, largest population in the world, past China, I think earlier this year. Yeah. So India is an economic powerhouse. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be too worried about a brain drain. And the yield curve in India is not inverted. It's a healthy yield curve. Yeah. Okay. And then Manas wrote, I want a customized cool shirt like you use for AI courses. What do you use for your shirts? Any service or site? Yeah. Yeah. So I use Custom Ink. And so I get all my shirts there from Custom Ink. Just do a search for it. I always get them in black. And I never have anything blue on them. If I have colors, it's going to be green, because my eyes are green, and I can't do green screen because of that. Otherwise, you see right through me, like you always do. Yeah. In fact, if I were to do green screen right now, you would actually see through my shirt. Let me see if I can figure this out. Give me 1 second. I'll show you what it looks like. Green screen, if it works. Use chroma key. Okay, here we go. Yeah. All right, this is I'm using blue screen, right? So I picked the color which is blue instead of green, which is my background here. But you'll see right through here, through this. Yeah. Yeah. So I'd have to put an image in the background for this to make sense for you guys. But let me show you. Yeah. And when you use green screen, you can use any color you like. It doesn't actually have to be the color green. Let me see if I can get an image back there. I lost a couple of viewers there. Give me 1 second. I'll get just some random image in the background. Give me a second here. Let's go. Oh, here we go. Good. Right here. Yeah. So as you can see, my buttons are blue. And so you see the text behind me, right? So that's me in a button. But my eyes are green, and that's why I use blue screen, not green screen, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And let me turn this ridiculousness off. Give me 1 second. Okay. And then Padre Andre wrote, how does one get into wealth management? What skills do you need? Yeah. So wealth management is, I think, the best job you can get in all of finance. Pardon me. And the reason I say that is because it's the only job where you can leave and take your customers with you. And it's called private wealth management. And so a lot of people that work at top investment banks like UBS, Goldman Sachs, etc., that work in wealth management, after a couple of years, they can leave and take their customers with them in most cases. Yeah. In terms of how to get into that market, like anything else, it's networking. And Andre, you're incredibly personable. So what I would do is I would network with people that have something in common with you. Maybe they're a member of the same parish that you're a member of, and they work in wealth management in New York City, where you're based. Just set up a ton of informational meetings. If you try to do that and you don't get meetings, or people aren't responding, let me know. Set up a one-on-one with me. I'll help you. I'll walk through Wall Street, brother. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. And what you can also do is I know you graduated from the MBA program. Just in all the finance and accounting lessons, I provide lots of templates. You can bring those templates and written up stock ideas to your interviews. Just print the one-pagers on the back of your resume when you meet with people. Yeah. In terms of skills, relationships are more important than product knowledge. It's a relationship business, wealth management, of course, like any other industry. In fact, over 75% of all jobs at all investment banks are sales related. Yeah. So having good interpersonal skills are important. The other stuff, the finance stuff, I teach you in the MBA program. Yeah. All right. Next up, Eric and John wrote, "Oh my God, Chris, you speak very professional stuff and nail it." Oh, I'm using a teleprompter for everything. No, thank you. And then you wrote, and then you make great jokes. They're awful jokes. I'm so sorry for that. Yeah. Then you wrote, "I think you could also be a great comedian and even beat Trevor Noah." Oh God, thank you for that. You wrote, "P.S. Trevor Noah is a great comedian. I love him. I love him too. I did his book on Audible." which he narrated, audible.com. It was incredible. What a great book. Yeah. Born a Crime, I think was the name. Yeah, great book. He's brilliant. Yeah, thank you for that. I like him a billion times more than Mr. Stewart. Okay. Next up, we got Nkit, who wrote, "Hey, Chris, which type of business will survive in this age of AI and ML? Can you suggest some industries which can be good for starting a startup?" Yeah. I think that the best way to think about what companies might do well longer term when it comes to AI, there's two sources. One source is looking at Sequoia's website. We'll go there in a second. And the second source is looking at plugins. Okay, and we'll go there in a second too. So let me kick it off by going to Sequoia's website. So Sequoia is the #1 venture capital firm in history. And on their websites, they're here in the Bay Area. I've partnered with them before. Here on their website, if you do a search for Generative AI's Act 2, and you scroll down, you'll see a map here of the companies that are best positioned within AI. And this might give you a lot of ideas too, in terms of companies to start or technologies to use. For example, Glean right here, that's like a search engine that you can use internally. So what you can do using Glean is on your private servers in your company, you can index all the data you have in Slack, Discord, email, Dropbox, whatever it is, and ask questions. It's like a little ChatGPT meets Google internally. If you're a super techie, you can scroll down here and look at the AI infrastructure stack right here in terms of what tools to use when it comes to AI. So that's one way to think about it. Another way to think about it in terms of ideas is you can go to ChatGPT and then you can select here plugins. Okay. And I think I'm covering it up in my face in the corner a bit. But plugins basically allows you to use more than just the ChatGPT data for accessing information. So let me show you an example here. So you can go here to the plugin store, and this might give you ideas in terms of what companies to start. Okay, and so if we go here to edX, for example, this is a plugin for edX. And so I installed that plugin, and now what I can do with the edX plugin here, I can say create a learning path for me to learn about Python and VBA and tech from MIT and Stanford. Go. And then what it's going to do is it's going to create a curriculum for you to learn from. Okay. And when you use plugins, like I'm showing you right now, please note they're not that robust. And they crash all the time. And great plugins sometimes go missing from the store after a day or two. All right, so here we go. So it looks like it's not just using Stanford and MIT, but the curriculum is made for me here. Computing in Python 3 data structures. And this is by Georgia Institute of Technology. Anyway, so it threw it all together. Here you can learn about pandas, which is something you can import directly into Python to do advanced data analysis, which I'll be teaching about in my Python course coming soon, etc. But this can create, and it says here, nothing's available from Stanford, yada, yada. And then here are the courses. Yeah, and you can even use role-playing by telling ChatGPT a little bit more about yourself. Yeah. I can go there if you want me to. Okay. Next question is from Abel, which is, hey, Chris, is this the right time to invest in property or buy a house? If not, why? Please explain in more details. Thanks. Yeah. It's hard right now because mortgage rates are going up. The 30-year mortgage rate is now, it touched 8%, which is the highest it's been, I think, since 2007 or so. maybe even much longer than that. Maybe going back to 01, I can't recall. But usually when the cost of capital goes up, then the asset class goes down in value. Yeah. But when it comes to property, the three most important things about real estate are location, location, location. So everything is relative. You can always go to Zillow.com, for example, and just take a look at relative prices of companies in certain neighborhoods. And you always want to buy the crappiest house in the nicest neighborhood instead of the nicest house in the crappiest neighborhood. Yeah. It's all relative. But it's all, if you have capital on hand, I always recommend buying versus renting. It's hard to do. I had to wait until my low 30s to do it when I lived in New York City. But think about how much money we all waste in rent. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many tax advantages to owning your own place as well. Yeah. Okay. And then DF wrote, Chris, please don't diminish yourself or what you do. Oh, when I call myself a fake teacher, yeah. You wrote, we as students have far greater respect for you than to think that you're a fake teacher. You're an awesome mentor. No, thank you. I have fake props and fake money, and I'm a fake teacher. It's fun to make fun of myself. As Sting said in one of my favorite songs ever, called Englishman in New York, it takes a man to suffer ignorance and smile. Be yourself no matter what they say. Thank you. Okay. But I do a lot of research on stuff because I'm very well read. Yeah. Okay. Venkatesh, how are you? Wrote, hey, Chris, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Likewise. Okay, next up we got DaVinci FX. What a cool name. Who wrote here, I just got your complete business plan course. The additional video content you added to the Excel, can you compile it into a playlist on your YouTube channel for easy accessibility? Yeah. So the best thing I'll say is, because I've got thousands of videos, is you can always just do a search on my YouTube channel. Everything is indexed. What you can also do is on my website, there's a search utility, I think, as well you can use. Yeah, thank you, though. Okay. Okay, moving on to T. T wrote, and I'm watching The Sopranos all over again. You know, Tony Soprano, T. because I forgot everything that happened. So I'm now on season 5. I love it. That's a great thing about getting older, man. You forget stuff, which means you can watch old movies and old television shows because you forgot all about them. Because, the older I get, the better I was. Yeah. But T wrote here, hi, Chris. Should I ask my employer about the green card policy now? Or should I wait until after a year? It's been half a year since I joined the firm. Yeah. Depends what your visa is. So for me, I was in the same situation that you're in, I think. So I worked at Goldman Sachs, and I had an H-1B visa. And as an immigrant or non-American, you're always running scared, right? And it's actually a good motivator to work really hard. And so when I was at Goldman, I did really well 1 year, and then you got to strike while the iron's hot. You have to ask, after you get commended for something. My boss said, Chris, you did a great job. You're one of the best performers, all that stuff. And then I said, thank you so much. And I'd love to please ask if there's any way the company could help me with the green card. And so Goldman was amazing about it. They actually assigned a lawyer to me and people on my team named Tim Todd, Todd, Tim Todd. And they started working on my green card. And I was really excited about it. And then what happened was 9/11 occurred. And so people on my team got their green cards, but not me. And I was on the no-fly list because of my Arabic last name, which I'm very proud of. And so it took me, I had to wait another 6 years until 2007 before I got it. And I remember when I went through my final interview after I moved from New York to the Bay Area, they knew everything about me. Like it was unbelievable, right? And I think the U.S. government's done a good job, relatively speaking, just given the fact there haven't been any more incidents. Yeah. But when I was on that no-fly list, it was frustrating at first. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's profiling, all that crap. But I thought to myself, what's positive about this? And I remember I went to LaGuardia. After 9/11, the lineups were ridiculously long. LaGuardia's an airport in New York City. I would go right to the front of the line instead of lining up for hours. And I said, I'm on that list. And then they said, okay, no problem at all. And they just gave me an extra search. And then I got to kind of chill out in the first class lounge for an extra hour or so. Yeah. But I was on that list for a while. And then eventually not on. Yeah. Okay. No filter. All right. And for people that want to, like, if your goal is to move to another country, one way to do it is to join a company whose headquarters are in another country, and then do exceptionally well, and eventually you'll get promoted to the mothership. Yeah, they'll relocate you if you ask. Yeah, and you'll never get promoted or a raise without asking. You have to ask over and over again. Yeah. All right. And then Anurag wrote, appreciate you giving us free stuff with additional resources in the technology portion of your MBA program as a Silver alumni. My pleasure. Yeah. Yeah. And you can always go to the very last lecture, and you'll see you'll get a free link to a new AI course we just published. Yeah. Okay. Next up, T wrote, Chris, what is the best way to move from the operations team to the investor relations team? Yeah. Yeah. Number one, network. You want to meet people on the IR team, obviously, spend time with them, be resourceful to them as well. What you can do is show them you can do the job before you actually get the job. And the way you can show them that you can do the job is write detailed investment research reports on similar companies in the industry. And if you're in my MBA program or any of my courses, I have plenty of templates that I can provide you with. What I would also do is I would set up informational meetings with people who have something in common with you that work in investor relations at different companies, and ask them for advice on how to best position yourself. Yeah. And what I recommend also doing is this. Listen to lots of earnings conference calls especially the Q&A portion of the call. So when companies report earnings, what happens is they hold an earnings call. And for the first half hour, investor relations and the CEO and CFO will say, we had another great quarter, even if that's not the case sometimes. And then after half an hour, you'll have the industry analysts from the investment banks ask questions. Pay attention to those questions and understand how the management team answers those questions. It's the most important part of any call. Last thing I'll say on that topic is next Thursday, November 2nd, I have one of the best equity analysts who ask questions on those calls named Brent Thill, who's going to be interviewed on this channel. And you can ask questions as well. Okay. Okay. Give me 1 second here. All right. Next up, T wrote, do you have any advice on year-end and performance reviews for writing down my accomplishments and my conversation with my manager? Yeah. So if you want to get promoted to the next level, in a lot of companies, there's a document. It's kind of like what's called a rubric in school. There's a document that states what you need to get promoted to the next level. So ask HR or go on your intranet if available and get that document and find out what the criteria is. And during your annual review meeting with your boss, articulate what skills you have or what accomplishments you've achieved that are on that list of what to get promoted to the next level. Yeah, it's like a gap analysis. You're here. There's where you need to be. Talk about how you have filled that gap or will be filling that gap. Yeah. And then also in your annual review, you want to mention to your boss, your manager, whatever. I really enjoy working here. We as a team have accomplished a lot. As you know, it's very expensive to raise a family here in the Bay Area or wherever you live. I'd love to know, please, what additional contributions I need to make in order to get considered for a promotion or a raise. And the dirty secret is that most people get raises or promotions. Behind closed doors, they ask over and over and over again. Yeah. And the best time to ask for a promotion or a raise is not just during your annual review meeting, but it's when your boss commends you on doing a great job and they're in a great mood. Then you tell them, do you have time for a coffee? Then you ask. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, I've got Eric. Eric wrote, hi, Chris. In topic 2, what must we do before starting to sell? You mentioned Fiverr. Okay, yeah, one of my lectures, yeah. A freelance website allows you to do freelance work. Can you get more details on Fiverr? Yeah, absolutely. So Fiverr is a company based in Tel Aviv that allows you to purchase any services. And it's called Fiverr for a reason, because the prices start at $5. And so with all my books, the covers are made by people that I hire off of Fiverr, right? And it's any freelancer in the world can go onto Fiverr as a side hustle and create documents or do whatever it is you want to sell. A better version, though, of Fiverr, a company I like way more, is called Upwork, but it's more expensive. And Upwork is what I use to hire programmers and developers to help me with APIs for integration, my website and software products with other services. Yeah. But Fiverr, you can go to fiverr.com to get more details. Yeah. And only hire people there that have at least 100 reviews, 4.5 stars or higher. Yeah. Okay. And then, hey, Carol, how are you? Carol's one of my MBA students who wrote, and he's from Poland, great guy. He wrote, yo, Chris, I nailed yesterday's interview. Awesome. Nicely done. Nicely done. I can't wait to hear all about it. Today, during our Platinum and Gold office hours, please tell me more how you did it, because I want everybody to learn from you. And thank you so much for making the Discord server, which I'm going to be deploying to all of my Silver, Gold, and Platinum students very soon. Thank you so much for that. Eileen, how are you? You know what I'm going to do? So Eileen, whose last name is the most beautiful last name in history, is Deo Gracias, which means thank God. Eileen was in my first MBA class that I launched back in 2019. And when she came for graduation, we do a live graduation event here for Gold and Platinum students. She gave me this. Thank you, which I still have. Thank you. Appreciate that. So Eileen, who's from the Philippines but lives in Atlanta, wrote, hey, Chris, happy Thursday. Just wanted to say hi and no questions today. Thank you. Thank you. Always say hi because you always bring a smile to my face when I see your last name. Thank you. And thank you for connecting me with Father Peter. Yeah. Okay. And then George wrote, Chris, besides AI, what sectors are looking promising? Yeah. It's hard because AI basically put to bed any other tech trend that people were talking about. Like, I can't remember the last time somebody mentioned NFT and the metaverse. I think we're going to have much more clarity on that, though, when Apple releases their VR product in Q1 of next year. It's going to be ridiculously overpriced. I'm going to buy it because I'm a nerd. But I think that will create a lot of opportunities for people interested in VR/AR. And Apple's got to do something in video games. They have to do something. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a large acquisition in the video game sector, if antitrust would approve it. Yeah. Okay. And then DF wrote, we love you for the time you put into your courses, your answers to our questions, and your vision of helping us become more than we've imagined before. Thank you. Thank you for that. I love you. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. Okay, and Eric wrote, thank you very much. You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Okay, and then DF wrote, and Brian wrote, I have so many questions on crypto and security. Awesome. And I'm looking forward, Brian, to also talking to you today in our Silver Office Hours call, starting soon, the Zoom call. Okay. Next question is from DF, which is, what are the licensing requirements to lead a private equities fund? Yeah. So whenever you're raising money, and when it comes to finance, you always have to hire lawyers to do an investment offering memorandum. Okay, so from a licensing requirements perspective, they'll help you with that. And this year is the Facebook IPO. But I don't think that you need, like, there's no professional designations in the finance industry. Like an MBA is not even a professional degree. But to work on the sell side, like an investment bank, for example, if you're going to be on a trading floor talking to clients, there are certain things you have to complete, like the Series 7, which is like an MBA and an exam that tests MBA basic finance knowledge. And there are other ones too, like the Series 3, the Series 63 with ethics, etc. Yeah. But that's more for the sell side. The buy side, like private equity, there's nothing really needed. Yeah. But you need lawyers to actually, and accountants to actually file all the paperwork for you. Yeah. And whenever you're raising money, it's not just something as simplistic as an investment offering memorandum. Lawyers also have to create what are called subscription documents to find out if your investor is an accredited investor. And so when I managed my hedge fund years ago, I had to get, they're called subscription documents, and I had to get all of my investors to fill them out. Subscription documents will basically find out if somebody can invest, meaning they have to have a liquid net worth of over $1 million. There's also anti-money laundering stuff they have to complete, which became more relevant post 9/11 and the Patriot Act. Yeah. Bottom line, just get a lawyer to do it all. Okay. Next up, Eric Tree wrote, I'm interviewing for a junior writer position at an energy consulting firm, and I'd like to show that I can do the job before. What are some things you think I can start doing? Junior writer position. Consulting. Okay, yeah. All right. So whenever it comes, so consulting, it's a very fragmented industry. There's over 100,000 consulting firms in the United States. What I would do is I would go to McKinsey's website. I would go to the Boston Consulting Group's website, and Bain's website, Accenture's website, etc. And what I would do is I would try to look at case studies, if they have them, on energy companies, meaning their energy clients and their energy verticals, and find out how they structured that part of the website, and also if they use frameworks. And you always want to have frameworks available in your arsenal as well when you're going to an interview, a consulting interview. Frameworks like the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, the Porter 5 Forces model, etc. Yeah. And in your write-ups, if you want, what you can do that you send them beforehand or bring with you, you can have a one-pager that talks about a SWOT analysis on particular energy companies, for example. Yeah. Cool. All right. And when you're being interviewed, so it's a consulting firm you're being interviewed for. There's a great website called vaultreports.com, and I want you to buy a report I'm going to show you here, which will help you interview at consulting firms. Okay, so it's called Vault. Is it vault.com? Let me see. It's been a while. Yeah, here it is, Vault. Yeah. So speaking of Bain, it'll tell you how to interview at Bain, which is a big consulting firm. And there's guides here that will help you ace your case. Okay, let me see here. Consulting. Give me a second. Maybe you can buy this one too, Energy Jobs, just to understand the energy sector in more detail. But I'm looking for consulting. Let me do Control F, consulting. Should be here. Consulting. Here we go. Yeah, this is the one here. So you can buy this for guided consulting, but I think this one's better here. This is how to ace your case, how to conduct a case interview. And I think it's money well spent. And you'll download it as a PDF, and this will teach you how to do case studies as well. And when you're doing case study type interviews, you want to use a framework, and you don't have to be right in these interviews. You just have to sound logical. So if they ask you a question about, I remember I interviewed with Boston Consulting Group back, I was working at Accenture. I wasn't happy for a while. 1996, I interviewed. And they asked me a question about a newspaper company that had declining sales. And what they do is they usually ask you questions based on who their clients are to get ideas from you. They won't tell you who their clients are. I didn't do well in that interview because I didn't know what I know now. So what I know now is they want to know how you think, and you want to use frameworks. So if they ask you a question, you could say, well, let me analyze this from a strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats perspective. Let me kick it off with the strengths. The strengths are blah, blah, blah. Moving on to the weaknesses, which are blah, blah, blah. In terms of the threats, blah, 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 and the opportunities are whatever. And the bottom line is this. And basically what I just did there was I showed that I have structure in my logic, and I also bought time. I bought myself time to think of what the answers are. And I use what are called transition words, like moving on to, in terms of, etc. And you wouldn't talk as fast as I'm talking now, but you know what I'm getting at. Yeah. And if you ever find yourself rambling, then you could use the following crutch. The bottom line is, and say what the bottom line is. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap up this week's call. This was a fun one. Please join us next week. Next week's going to be one of the best calls ever, as I have Brent Thill, one of the best equity research analysts at an investment bank, who's going to join us. I'll interview him, and you can ask all your questions on investing, getting a job in that sector, etc. Please click the like and subscribe button. If you're interested in my courses, you can always go to my website, harounmba.com. And I'm going to end this webcast like I end all webcasts with a video that is life-changing. It's a short interview with Steve Jobs that I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. God bless you. And for those in my Silver MBA program, I will see you in a couple of minutes. And the way to get access to the Zoom call for my weekly Silver call is to go to the first lecture in the MBA program. Yeah, thank you. And God bless. And click the like button as well. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
you